Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some exciting Warpforge news. We've got the Ork reinforcement dropping in a Warpforge near you in the next 24 hours as of my recording. So, very exciting stuff. I think it's a bit more exciting than the Tyrannid reinforcement drop. I think we got a lot of goodies here for the Orks. And although I am an Ultramarines player, I do appreciate a good Ork. And I will say that, they've had their day in the sun with Gaskell. They've been toned down a lot. Maybe even some of the considerations here have been from the most recent balance patch where they got a lot of nerfs kind of across the board. But we got some definitely exciting stuff for the old Goff Ork Clan here. So if you like the content here, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm really excited to be able to show these cards to y'all today. I'm sure other content creators will be putting that out. BJ the Brave and the Ecclesiarch did a great job on their podcast, just going over stuff, and I was in the chat and they were live live interacting when they had recorded the video. It was super fun. So let's just get into it. So we've got the new war boss, Scourgerang. Don't really know his story, but he's got a pretty sick setup here with the mega armor and the gunner grot on the shoulder. So what does he do, right? 35 health. He's got a huge choppa, because you can't do an orc video without the accent. So your warlord gets +2 melee attack and concussive. It's a lot. Even when we look at Zagstruck, right, which gets armor, +1 melee attack. It just feels like a card like this and the warlord like this, and we may have my cat joining very soon because she needs all the attention when I'm working from home. It just seems strictly better, right? I mean, +2 attack and concussive is very... Thank you for putting your tail down. Very potent. I mean, you can take out 4 health recruits, right? Potentially 5 with Makari, plus this card. This just seems really strong. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's not as aggressive and as powerful as I think. But when orcs, even with the nerfs, have so much ability to just out-trade you on health, and they just have some really efficient units and a lot of different kind of options on how to win the game or how to close out the game. This just feels like we're going to get a new brand of aggressive decks, and I think the War Boss is going to be definitely worth crafting if you've got a legendary wild card lying around. Sadly, I don't. I just can't imagine this isn't strong. The concussive is also just upside on being able to bash the opposing warlord, so they can't use their warlord to help clear your units as you're developing. This just feels extremely efficient. And I think this war boss, compared to the Tyrannid new warlord, which is kind of like a different flavor of aggro, and I don't really know that it has the setup to do what it's kind of supposed to do. I think Gordrang has a really good setup with the new cards, or not even just the new cards, but the cards that the orcs already have access to. So I think this is definitely a good option. And here we got Grizzled Scarboy. I would say a controversial card. We're starting off with some bangers here. Give armor to your warlord. Boom. +2 health for each damage enemy. So the floor of this, right, is you're gaining 2 health. You're putting armor on your warlord for the rest of the game. This could be fine in a control deck, but I really feel like this is like you play this in your Gordrang deck. You get your armor. You just keep bashing face. Zagstruck is one of I think the only warlord that gets armor temporarily. This is the first time we're having armor permanently on a warlord, and it just feels with the kit that orcs already have, their aggressiveness, and especially the aggressive style of this new war boss. I imagine this is going to see play. I mean, I think people are kind of overrating it. Like, this is broken. Like, why are orcs getting another incredible tool? Blah blah blah. I think that it's fine. I think you are paying 5 energy to do this, right? You're not adding to the board, and so that's kind of a problem in a lot of matchups. But I think because if you play this in an aggressive deck, you're already kind of getting rewarded, right? For just being super aggressive, bashing in every turn, and Grizzled Scarboy just kind of adds to that. So I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's weak. I think it's kind of right in the middle. And we're going to see how it plays out. Stomp 'em. Not going to say too much about this card. It's basically a copy and paste of Codex Discipline. except for mob triggers and for melee attack. These cards I just don't love. The floor is, this is a dead card in your hand, which is pretty bad. And obviously the ceiling is very high, but it's kind of a win more card, right? Because you already would have units on the board. And for anyone who's played this game pretty competitively, you know that it's hard to stick units on the board. So I think Stomp 'em may get better with time. That was kind of what Ecclesiarch was saying, with more mob triggers and things like that. So, and are you excited about orcs, BB? She must be. So yeah, I just don't think this is really going to see play, at least not yet. And I don't think we should be too excited about Stomp 'em. Although I love the art, I will say that. All right, we've got another banger here with Dead Choppy. So give Bloodthirst, oh boy, to a friendly vehicle or +2 melee attack to a friendly troop. So it's nice that this has a little bit of a bailout if you don't have the proper kind of vehicle draw. Bloodthirst is a strong ability. We know that from the Ravenous Hunter card, I believe it is, for the Tyranids. Is that what it's called? Either way, it's the 4 energy that gives Bloodthirst. Obviously, we don't have Synapse to really go crazy with this card, but Bloodthirst is just a strong ability in a faction that's already hitting quite hard. It's also previewing a card that we're going to look at, which is pretty exciting. So I think it's strong. I don't think it's overpowered. Again, I would kind of put this sort of in the middle. I do think you'd probably be happy to have at least one of this card in your deck, if not 2. And maybe there's a little bit more of an incentive to lean on your vehicle synergies. So that it's kind of an interesting... I like that they're trying to beef up a part of the faction that is kind of less... I guess just less highlighted, right? Which is the vehicles are not terribly interesting or super powerful. So I think that Dead Choppy is kind of giving a nod to all right, we want to push some war boss into being more vehicle oriented, which I think is great. I would love that for Ultramarines. I think that made a video recently about the Ultramarines. I don't think the vehicle synergies work. They just don't function as best as they could. And maybe we could use a Dead Choppy in the Ultramarines. I don't know. So yeah, very exciting card. I love the art, of course. And here is Crumpaclaw, who is kind of in this. I mean, this is a kill a can, but I think that it's sort of a nod to Crumpaclaw here, which is also a very interesting kind of you have to deal with it sort of card, right? So it's got unstable, which is a little bit of a drawback. And then let's look at its mob. Gain +2 melee attack and armor, right? So this is all going to stack, right? And so that's pretty crazy. So you play this on a board where you've got at least a unit, right? You're going to get 2 armor out of your war boss attacking and the other unit. And then it's going to have 12 attack, right? It's also got 8 health for 8 energy. Obviously, this can just be played and removed. And I will say, in a lot of matchups, it probably won't be that big of a threat because they can deal with it. But the thing is, I think any card that is a kind of must-answer threat and it's somewhat efficient, 8 energy is not crazy, right? I wouldn't say that every game is really over by 8 energy, and specifically maybe if you're playing more of a control-oriented style of orcs, I think that could be okay. Again, I don't think that this card is going to be winning games necessarily, but it is a big threat that you have to deal with. Now, if this had Vanguard, this would be terrifying. It'd just be a different kind of scarier Ardshell Gurk, which is already a really difficult card to deal with. So, you can attack past this. You can, find ways, obviously you can stun it. I'm thinking more for the Ultramarines that I play often. But I still think it's sort of a must-answer threat that will just probably win the game. So, again, I don't know that you would want maybe more than one of this in your deck. Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. It is a vehicle, so you can discount it with the defense card that lowers it by 2. And if there's a way to give this camouflage, right, it gets better. So I do think that there are ways of making this card a little bit more competitive, but still a really scary threat at baseline. So something to definitely think about if you're looking for a slot in in your orc deck where you can really use some extra gas because they're vehicles and they need gas. I don't know why all the terrible jokes are coming to me today. All right, now we've got a pretty exciting comment. Crump to Gits. All troops you deploy this turn gain flank. So, obviously a little bit more Green Horde oriented, right? You play all your stuff, you give them all flank. It is pretty cheap. 2 energy to give anything you're playing that turn flank is pretty good. I think outside of the Green Horde, it's not going to be terribly effective. Maybe on turn 7 or 8, you're able to drop, I'm thinking, or 8 energy, I'm thinking like 2-3 drops, and then you play this, right? Could work. I'm not so sure about that. I think this is more a nod to more of like the combo styled orc decks with the Green Horde. So I think that it'll probably see play. And when you're building your orc deck, I don't know that this is the best card to have, but it's certainly not. Like, giving things flank as a stratagem, even at the beginner level, is generally pretty decent. So I think that the card will see play. I don't know if it's going to be a staple, but I think it's probably a decent one of at the very least. So interesting. We'll see how scary these orcs can get. And of course, as I say this, and I forgot what order this is in, we get a really, really scary orc with big choppa knob. This is just a beefy dude with a really scary chainsword axe thing going on. All right, 6 energy, 7 health, so decent rate. 7 attack, 4 range, so I'm thinking about, I can play my Intercessor on 6 as well and deal 5 range to this and it won't die, so that's maybe a good way to deal with it. But it's got concussive, so we're seeing a lot of concussive in this set. When a friendly unit triggers mob, it triggers an additional time. So, synapse for orcs, anybody? Again, you have to have some setup for this to really work, but it is a threat that kind of needs to be answered. And if you have really anything on the board, right, this is going to get you a lot of advantage. And we're also going to see a new mob unit that I think combos really well with this. It is a legendary, right? So, like, you have to think about, is this worth getting? Like, am I going to put this in every deck? I don't know that you need the big choppa knob. I do think that it's a good amount of upside. The floor is still pretty fine on this card. It's just like a unit that has to get answered. I don't think it's essential for orc strategies is kind of the way I would put it, but it's certainly a bonus. And I think that you probably would want to find room for this in your decks if you can. On 6, we've got the biggest, the Stormboy Veteran that comes in and flanks. That's an excellent card. I think that is kind of a little bit better, right? I would probably prioritize Veteran Stormboy a little bit more because the flank is just really, really impactful. But Big Choppa Knob gets you a lot of value, especially if you can set it up. So I think that it's, like I said, not essential, but definitely a strong card and definitely worth trying to find room, I think, in orc builds. And I'll maybe try and do some more orc features on the channel just so we can play around with the new stuff when it comes out. Okay, and this is the new mob unit that I was referring to, the boss knob. So his mob is give +1 health to adjacent units. That does include your warlord if he's next to him, so that's kind of a nice way to gain life. And orcs really just have a lot of ways to get life, so that's why I think the aggro war boss that we're seeing today with Gordring is going to be in a good spot, I think, on the release of this reinforcement drop. So also the stats are fine, right? Obviously hurting on ranged attack here, which is pretty on brand for the orcs. Also, I didn't realize he's got this cool mech pistol arm too. That's pretty sick. But yeah, just decent stats. I mean, I think if you play this thing and it lives, it's a huge problem. But also the fact that what mob does is just mean, okay, you've got one additional unit plus your warlord on the board. You net yourself some health, right? There's a ton of setup to make mob units good. It's really just if you can get one additional unit plus your warlord to get good value. And if it sticks on the board, it's going to be a problem, right? So it doesn't give health to itself, right? So they can just target and focus this down. But giving your warlord some health to kind of stabilize and maybe another problematic unit I think something I've just grown to appreciate about the orcs is when Spanner has given health to vehicles, it's a real problem. So I imagine, although Boss Nub is a bit more costly, I think that same effect is going to be pretty impactful. So I think he's going to see quite a bit of play. All right, and then we're going to kind of get to the end of the pack here. We've got Rocket Boy, 4 energy, 4 health, some good range attack, unstable blast 2. So this is something you can hit off of your rock invasion. That might be decent. I mean, blast 2 isn't awful, but I would say there's not many decks or like very constructed decks that are going to want this card. So that's about all I can say for this card. Mega Blasted Deathcopter. So there's some interesting discussion about this, right? Blast 5, just to highlight here. Sorry, my cat is on my mouse right now, so I can barely move it. Blast 5 is noteworthy, right? We're thinking Hemlock Wraithfighter, right? And this costs 7, that costs 8, but that also has flank, and this has unstable. So it's nice to draw a little bit of comparison to kind of think about the card value. But again, if you were able to play this on 5, right, with the vehicle defense card, it's kind of a scary threat, right? 7 health is a lot. Again, doesn't have any protection, doesn't have Vanguard. I mean, it wouldn't, most flying units don't. So it is, again, it's a threat that needs to be answered, and there are plenty of ways to answer stuff like this. But I think there is a world in which this is an option for more vehicle-based decks. Like, I think if we actually see, like, vehicle cost reduction cards or something that just allows for kind of these clunkier vehicles to be more efficient, you're going to see this hitting you for a lot. So I don't think the setup's quite there for something like Deathcopter here, but I think definitely there's going to be a time where orcs have a full kind of vehicle synergy deck, and I'm pretty excited for that personally. I think that's really going to be a cool way for them to branch out. Okay, and our last guy is Stick Bomb Boy, who I do love the art. It's like such a classic orc card. 3 energy, 3 health, 2/4, tied 1, stun enemies that it attacks. It's got 3 health. I don't think we need to play this card. I don't think it's terribly efficient or, that good. I guess you could hit it off of Rock Invasion as well. When it's in the card pool and with flank, I guess you could say that it's fine. But the idea of a very fragile unit having stunning enemies that you attack doesn't really seem that great. I do think giving it flank, I mean, 4 damage, like if you think about Primaris and Scepter, right? Sorry, I'm using all these Ultramarine examples, but so it's 4 health, 3 ranged, 2 melee. So very similar stacks, except it's got +1 health, and this has -1 health, +1 ranged. I think the health stat is way more important than the damage stat. So I just don't imagine that this thing is going to see that much play. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Maybe there is a style of deck that really would like to get something out of the stun, or like can really take advantage of the fact that you can tide this and go wide. I don't know. So maybe the Green Horde builds that really, I just don't really know why you would want. Like, I think the biggest benefit of this unit is its ranged attack, like for how efficient it is. That's kind of it, I think. So that's going to wrap us up, folks. That is all the cards that'll be dropping. I really think that the most exciting thing is our new War Boss and his really scary chainsword axe combo going here. So this is going to be dropping, like I said, within the next 24 hours. Releasing this video on February 21st. So definitely a good time to hop in, and I think we'll have drops as of this weekend. We'll see, and if we do, I'll definitely be up there. So I've got my Twitch in the description. Feel free to hop in and chat, especially if you're new. Sorry for the sniffles. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but other than that, appreciate your time. Hope you're going to have fun with these orcs. And if you don't have fun with orcs, then I'm very sorry, because it probably will be a lot of what we're seeing on the ranked ladder. So I will catch you all next time.